What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Adventure Outpost, your hub for all things movie related. Another weekend is coming on. It is once again time to talk those juicy box office numbers. It was an absolutely stellar weekend here at the box office, one of the best for the year, the absolute creme de la creme. All eyes were on Barbenheimer this weekend to see what it was going to do, and it did not disappoint. It came in, it brought the fucking heat. We have so many freaking awesome numbers to get into, so we're going to dive into all that good stuff. We're not going to waste any time. Quickly, as always, before we begin, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, drop some comments down below. Let me know if you hit the double feature of Barbenheimer, what you went out and saw this weekend, all that good stuff. Did you catch anything? Did you skip out on Barbenheimer, catch some Mission Impossible action, some Sound of Freedom, all that other stuff? Let me know down below what you went and saw this weekend. But we're not going to waste any time because we have so much good stuff to dive into. Of course, we start with our 2023 box office numbers with the best debut weekend of 2023. Let's take a look here at this chart. And as you can see, for the week of the 28th week of the year, we were $299 million, up 122.9% over last week. Just missed out on the $300 million mark. Obviously, these are estimates, so it could go up, could go down, could be somewhere right around there. But however way you slice it, this is an absolute huge win here at the box office, especially with all of the turbulent stuff going on right now in Hollywood, with the writer's strike, with the actor's strike, with so much turmoil going on. It is still crazy to see that if you put the right things out, if you put the business out there, if you marketed it in the correct way to people that makes them want to put their asses in seats, if you give them something worth going out for, they're going to show up in fucking droves. And they did that this weekend. They did that this weekend for Barbie, they did it for Oppenheimer, and they did it for some other movies too. It was a fantastic weekend here at the box office. Obviously, it was dominated by the double feature of Barbie and Oppenheimer, but the other movies didn't do too bad either. We got some solid ones. There was a few disappointments somewhere in some of the other movies, but for the most part, this was a stellar weekend on the box office at all fronts. A lot of movies got some good spillover from Barbie and Oppenheimer being sold out, so they had to go check out some other stuff. So this was just a big movie going weekend. It was absolutely just fantastic. At my theater, it was just all hands on deck. Absolute, just it never stopped. You never stopped. There was Barbie probably every hour. Oppenheimer, obviously less shows because the movie's so long, but every single show that movie had sold out, which is crazy for a biopic, especially a biopic of that nature, with that length, with that subject matter. For that movie to do as well as it did is absolutely tells to the power of great marketing, tells to the power of just what Barbenheimer was doing, and also talks to the power of what Christopher Nolan commands, because people turn out for Nolan movies. This man is an absolute sensation, probably one of the few directors left today that can turn out those asses in seats based on his name alone. With its huge haul of $299 million, that was enough for it to claim the fourth best weekend ever at the box office. That is fucking incredible for that to do. Like, just a Barbie movie, a title that you did not know how well this was actually going to do even a month ago. Like, the best analysis would never have guessed that we would have been at this level right there. And also for a biopic about World War II, about something that's not really as bombastic in World War II, something that's more restrained. It's a lot very talkative and not so much action heavy. It is insane that we are now looking at the fourth highest grossing weekend of all time, thanks to Barbenheimer. We're going to take a look right now at the chart and see just what the other top five were in this bad boy grouping. And if you take a look here for the best weekends overall, of course, in the number one spot was the opening weekend of Avengers Endgame, April 26, 2019 to April 28th, claimed $404 million that weekend at the box office when all is said and done through every movie. That is absolutely absurd. In second place, Avengers Infinity War did it a year prior in 2018 with $316 million. Right behind that was Star Wars The Force Awakens opening weekend, December 18th, 2015 to December 20th, took in $315 million. And then you see Barbenheimer right there for its opening weekend, $299 million, just ahead of the fifth place spot, which was the Christmas weekend of Star Wars The Force Awakens, which still managed to bring in $298 million. That's insane in and of itself, that those 2 weekends for Star Wars right there made that much fucking money. Like, that's absolutely insane. That's blows my mind. But Barbenheimer, I think, is even more impressive because it's doing all of that without any previously made material. It's not a sequel. It's not a requel. It's not based on, like, the only thing you got is it's based on a line of Barbie dolls, which that's not indicative of this kind of success. Like, that was it by no means a sure thing that this movie was going to be a huge blockbuster of this magnitude just because there was Barbie dolls. That was not the case whatsoever. This was still very up in the air what this movie can do, coupled with that biopic like we talked about before. This is absolutely insane that it did this kind of business. This is an absolutely monumental, huge, earth-shaking event that you don't see very often at the box office, and we should all take a minute to really appreciate just how special this past weekend was. Obviously, working it, my heart goes out to you people that worked it. I worked it as well. It was a very, very busy weekend. Absolutely crazy. Drop some stories down below. Let me know what was it. If you work at any type of movie theater and you had to deal with the epicness of Barbenheimer, let me know some of your epic stories down below. The good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. I want to hear those good, juicy tales. But now we turn our attention to the actual top 10 and see just where each movie fell in this week's top 10 charts. Let's take a look right now. And it is absolutely no surprise that Barbie takes the #1 spot with $155 million off of a $145 million budget. That is fucking incredible right there. Anytime when you can make more than your budget opening weekend, you are in for a just hell of a ride. And this movie, I can't wait to see what its legs are and what this movie is going to do when all is said and done. It's funny, there was an interview there that said Margot Robbie, when she was pitching or whatever, like jokingly said that like this movie could be $1 billion property. Obviously it was a little tongue-in-cheek, but who knows so far? Opening weekend worldwide, I think for Barbie sat around $337 million. So if this movie has legs here at the box office, and there's no indication that it won't right now, especially with not a lot coming out for August, there is every chance. I don't think it's going to hit $1 billion. I absolutely don't think it's going to hit $1 billion, but I never thought it would make $337 million in its opening weekend also. So sky is the limit for this movie right now, and there is no ceiling cap on where this movie can go based on demand right now. It's also tracking, it's going to have a huge Monday. So during the week, this movie is going to do business for a while. It looks like this movie is going to have legs. So it's going to be interesting to see when is all said and done, where this movie is going to cap out around. If I was a betting man, I would say somewhere, a little under $1 billion. I'm going to guess somewhere in the 700 million range is where I think this movie is going to top out. I think it'll probably sit just underneath Guardians of the Galaxy. It'll probably end up being third in the top 10 worldwide at the end of the year. That's my proclamation right now. So I'll stick with that one. It could go up higher, it could go lower, it could be right on the money. Nobody knows, but I think that's a safe bet to make right now for Barbie. I saw it yesterday. It's fun. It's cute. It's a cute movie. Definitely not like the greatest thing I've ever seen. It's fun. It's enjoyable. There's a lot of silly shit in it that doesn't work storytelling wise, but that doesn't make it a bad movie. It's a perfectly enjoyable movie. I'm tempted to enjoy it more simply because of how mad a lot of grown-ass men are on the internet right now about this movie. It absolutely cracks me up that you're a grown-ass man crying on the internet for like up to 40 minutes to an hour about a movie about dolls. That's hilarious to me. There have been a lot of like really funny ones. Ben Shapiro's one that's hilarious. He lit a Barbie on fire in his video. Like, do you know how fragile you have to be as a human being to be that upset over a movie that you either, one, went out and bought that doll to burn, in which case it's kind of pathetic, or two, you took it from your kids, which makes you an asshole. It's just a movie. It can't hurt you. Relax. Let's keep moving on. In second place, we've got Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan's huge biopic, an absolute big opening for Christopher Nolan, $80.5 million off of a $100 million budget. This is another movie that's going to have some legs at the box office. This movie is going to make some money as well. That is crazy for a biopic to make $80 million in its opening weekend. That is fucking insane. I saw this movie as well over the weekend. I didn't do the double feature, obviously, because I had to work all weekend for this, so I had to sneak in these movies where I can. I saw Oppenheimer first because I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan. I loved this movie. I thought it was such an interesting deep dive into a history that I did not know too much about. Obviously, I knew enough to know who Oppenheimer was and what he did, but some of the more specifics into the movie, like Strauss and all that other stuff going on I had no idea about. So I always love when I can get into movies like that that want me to learn more about the world in which I just witnessed. Is just fantastic. And also, all the credit goes to Christopher Nolan for churning out a movie that had me on the edge of my seat, even knowing like stuff that was going to happen. Like, he still had me on the edge of my seat when they're getting ready to test the bomb, even though I know the test is going to work. That's how good of a filmmaker he is, that he still had me unreclining my chair so I could like sit forward and be like, let's fucking go, baby. That's how fucking masterful this guy is. Great opening for him. The best opening for an original work of his that's not a Batman movie. That's absolutely epic. Just a fantastic double header right there this weekend. Anyone who went out to go see a movie, whatever you thought about the movies, this was a huge, great weekend for all of us movie goers, movie lovers, movie workers, and everything in between. So, round of applause for all of us. In third place, the movie that just keeps on just breaking boundaries. It doesn't give a fuck what you think about it. And that is Sound of Freedom, dethroning Mission Impossible. Absolutely insane. In its fourth week, drops only 26.2%. Fantastic hold right there. Takes in $20 million to bring its total domestic hold to $124 million off of a $14 million budget. I don't think anybody could have saw this movie coming and doing what it did this summer. This movie is absolutely taking away so much of that business from Mission Impossible, because I think a lot of the moviegoers from both movies are kind of would be in the crosshairs. So it's so crazy that Mission Impossible, also Indy, I think as well, were probably hurt from like the older moviegoers that are opting to go see Sound of Freedom instead of these two movies. It's just crazy how well this movie has managed to do here at the box office with $124 million. Never expected that we would get this movie hitting blockbuster status here. In fourth place, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. My God, dropping to fourth place in its second week, dropped 64.3%. That is a huge drop off. That is an absolute shame to see right there. Takes in only $19.5 million, bringing sold domestic hold to $118 million off a $290 million budget. That they are probably kicking themselves right now. I am sure Tom Cruise is really pissed off, and who I would be pissed off at is Paramount and not the moviegoers, because this I feel like is way on the shoulders of Paramount, who placed this movie in an absolutely crowded box office. Because yeah, you couldn't see Sound of Freedom coming. That came out of nowhere. That is absolutely reigning in the charts right now, and it took some business. That one you couldn't foresee. But you've known for a while about Barbenheimer being right there. And I don't know why you would pick the week before Oppenheimer to debut your movie, especially when you want to hold PLF formats for as long as possible. I don't know why you would pick the week before Oppenheimer, where Christopher Nolan has deals with IMAX, and that was where you put your movie. So that I feel like is an absolute Paramount drop the ball moment right there. And they really needed a better release date. Honestly, I would have released this movie earlier in the summer. A lot of the other, June was a death ground for movies. And I feel like Mission Impossible would have played really good counter programming to Spider-Man as being a good action movie that you can go see outside of the animated movie, because nothing else in June really came up to play. And I feel like that would have been better for Mission Impossible. Even releasing later in the summer, maybe like to let it just reign free in like the middle of August into September and everything, because there's really nothing going on then at that point. I don't know. It's tough to call. Honestly, I think looking at the calendar for this year, I honestly would have made a judgment call, a bold call too, because I know Mission Impossible is a summer blockbuster that you want to go check and turn your brain off. But I would have made a bold claim. I would have put it out in December. There's not many movies right now that are going to claim that big, huge Christmas box office that you see from like Avatar and stuff like that. Right now, only Aquaman is the big movie that's in there. And DC is shown right now this year that they are fucking floundering. And I don't expect Aquaman to put up much of a fight at all. Like, I think Mission Impossible would have been the movie to put out this summer, put out around Christmas time, and I think it would have done gangbusters. I think that would have been, is a bold claim. It might not end up working in your favor, but I think that would have been a better shot. You could have held PLFs probably the entire month of December at that point. I think that would have been a better option for them. I think what also hurt them was naming it Dead Reckoning Part 1. Everyone is immediately turned off when you see a Part 1. Nobody wants to see or know that we're not getting a full story. And even though Mission Impossible does have a clear and concise ending, it's still just probably turned a lot of people off from going, knowing that it was a part one. Maybe they're like, I'll save that and wait, and then when part two is coming out, I'll check that one out so then I can go see part two. And honestly, with this movie being mostly a complete story, I would have just called it Dead Reckoning, and then the next one name it something else, like in the subtitle, because they're both, like, while they're two halves, they're their own stories at the same time. Just stuff that I think hurt this movie in the long run. Rounding out the top five is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. In its fourth week, drops 45.4%, takes in $6.7 million to bring its total domestic total to $159 million off a $300 million budget. Just struggling to make some money right there. And if you look, I was pretty close on my top five. Obviously, I got Sound of Freedom and Mission Impossible switched around. And then I said Elemental would round out the top five, but we got Indiana Jones still hanging out in the top five. But 4 out of 5 ain't bad, even if I was wrong on the placement for 2 of them. I still think that's pretty solid right there. We take a look on the back 5. We've got Insidious, The Red Door in its third week, drops 50%, takes in $6.5 million, brings total domestic total to $71 million of the $16 million budget. Just printed money at that point. In 7th place, we've got Elemental in its 6th week, dropping 36.3%, takes in $5.8 million to bring its total domestic total to $137 million off of a $200 million budget. In 8th place, we've got Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, still hanging on in there in the 8th week. Drops 53.5%, takes in $2.8 million to bring its total domestic total to $375 million off of a $100 million budget. Transformers, The Rise of the Beasts in 9th place in its 7th week, drops 67.5%. It takes in $1.1 million to bring its total domestic total to $155 million off of a $200 million budget. And rounding out the top 10 is No Hard Feelings in its 5th week, drops 67.2%, takes in $1 million to bring its total domestic total to $49 million off of a $45 million budget. Now, as always, we like to take a look at our fallen heroes. These are our heroes that did their time in the top 10, but have now bowed out for greener passages. There are 2 movies that are bowing out of the top 10 this week. We take a look here at the chart. After 2 weeks on the chart, Joyride bows out of the top 10, having not found an audience. And after 8 weeks on the chart, The Little Mermaid finally bows out. You did your time, you had your say, you made your fill, but now it's time to say goodbye to the top 10. We will see you in the realm of physical media, and as always, we salute you. Now, it's been a few weeks since we took a look at this chart, but it's finally time for us to re-debut it back in here because we finally have a movie that managed to jump into this top 5, and that is our best domestic weekends here at the box office for a movie. With the release of Barbie this weekend and its $155 million total, it now claims the top spot of the best weekend for a movie at the box office in 2023. We take a look at the chart. Barbie in first place with the weekend of 7/21 takes in $155.5 million, dethroning. Finally, a movie comes out that managed to dethrone Super Mario somewhere. We were wondering, would any movie this year be able to do it, or was Super Mario just going to be too big to topple? But it turns out that Mattel and Barbie had just what they needed to topple him out here at the charts. Super Mario now sits in the second weekend for its opening weekend of April 7th with $146 million. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse in third place with $120.5 million opening weekend. Guardians of the Galaxy in fourth place for its opening weekend of May 5th took in $118 million. And rounding out the top 5, even though it was considered wildly a box office bomb, it still manages to hold the 5th spot here, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania of its opening weekend, February 17th, with $106 million. We turn our attention now, as always, to the top 10 worldwide and domestic for 2023. We start, as always, with the worldwide charts. In first place, still here, wondering how long this one will hold. Will Barbie be able to topple this one? I don't think so. I think Super Mario, worldwide at least, is going to hold on to this top spot for the entire year. In first place, Super Mario Bros. With $1.3 billion. Guardians of the Galaxy in the second place spot with $843 million. Third place right now, Fast X with $718 million. In fourth, we got Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse with $675 million. Rounding out the top 5 is Full River Red with $673 million. The Wandering Earth 2 with $604 million. The Little Mermaid with $556 million. Lost in the Stars with $512 million. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania with $476 million. And rounding out the top 10 is John Wick Chapter 4 with $432 million. I'm sure by this time next week, or by the time we even get to Friday for next week, I think at this point Barbie will be somewhere in this top 10. We turn over to the domestic front where the Super Mario Bros. Movie still is number one with $574 million. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is in second place with $375 million. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 with $358 million. The Little Mermaid with $296 million. Ant-Man and the Wasp with $214 million. John Wick Chapter 4 with $187 million. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny with $159 million. Creed 3 with $156. Transformers Rise of the Beast with $155.6. And debuting in the 10th spot is Barbie with $155 million, knocking out the previous 10th place spot, which was Fast X. Now we quickly take over to our 2023 Blockbuster Status chart as well. This is our chart of all the movies for the year that have made over 100 million, not just the top 10. Obviously, we left off at the 10th spot with Barbie, and if you look there, we got a few more after that. Fast X in the 11th spot with 145. You got Elemental with 137. Sound of Freedom now in at a $100 million Blockbuster Status movie with 124 million. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning right behind it with 118 million. Scream 6 with 108 million. And The Flash rounding us out, just barely making over the $100 million mark before it was all said and done at the box office for The Flash. And now if we take a look also at my picks for Blockbuster Status, these were all the movies that I thought had a chance and would make $100 million here at the box office domestically. As you can see from the last chart, we had 16 movies that have grossed $100 million so far at the box office. Only 2 of those movies I did not guess, which was Scream 6 and Sound of Freedom. So right now I am 14 for 16. That is pretty goddamn good. I missed out on Shazam, as you can see, but we are adding Mission Impossible 7 to that total. We're adding Elemental to that total. We're adding Barbie. All have money status signs next to it now because they have all made over $100 million. Oppenheimer, I'm sure by this time next week, will also be joining this chart. And then if you look, that's the last big moneymaker for a little while now at this point. The Meg 2 obviously has a shot at doing it. The first one did. Then you got the Equalizer in September, but it's going to start thinning out right now. We are we're getting to the end of the Blockbuster Status summer movie season. So now it's going to be all eyes to see what any movies for the fall and winter are going to be able to pull it out. Obviously, a lot of these bets now, if we look over my Sure Thing charts, which were my first 2 ones, are almost done. We've only got my Sure Things left: Oppenheimer, The Marvels, and Aquaman. Oppenheimer, absolutely. Marvels, of course, MCU always manages to make at least 100 million. Aquaman, though, I don't know at this point. You want to think it's a sure thing, but with the way DCEU is performing right now, I don't know anymore. It's a hard bet to take at this point. We have over, though, in my safe bets, Elemental and Barbie managed to do it. Barbie doing it, obviously, in 3 days. Absolutely amazing. The Meg 2 following right behind, that's possible. The Equalizer 3, possible based on its previous movies. Dune Part 2. The Hunger Games, Trolls 3, Wish, and Ghostbusters. The caveat being if Ghostbusters actually even comes out this year. I don't know. We haven't seen anything for it at this point yet, so I think it's fairly safe to assume that movie might end up getting pushed. There's also rumors that Dune's going to end up getting pushed. It all depends what's happening right now with this strike. And if you look all the way to the end, these were the outside bets the previous book club had, so I thought this one would. Obviously, I was wrong there. Insidious Chapter 5 sitting at 71 million right now, so if it manages to hold on for a few more weeks, it's possible, but I think it might finish just underneath as well for that one. Haunted Mansion outside bet, it's possible depending on what the reviews are. Blue Beetle, I think, is a way just out of left field claim. I think we're way off base with all DCEU shit this year, so I don't know if that one's coming. And then the same thing with Kraven the Hunter. It's very back and forth with Sony. Obviously, they struck gold with the Venom movies, so maybe they might pull it out with this one, but also Morbius was a steaming pile of shit. So who knows? It could go either way. But now all eyes turn to, as always, my favorite chart to take a look at, and that is our chart riders. That is where we take a look and we tally up week over week how long these movies stay in the top 10. So at the end of the year, we can take a look and see which movies had the best legs at the box office, which had the best bang for your buck, which was the movie that brought people out for the longest. So we take a look here at the chart right now, and as you can see, as always, still no change over the years of our top 2 spots. Avatar: The Way of Water in first place with 12 weeks. Puss in Boots in second with 11 weeks, and the Super Mario Brothers movie being the only movie of 2023 to hit double digits in the charts with 10 weeks right now all locked in. We've got in fourth place John Wick Chapter 4 and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 locked in at 9 weeks. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse right now sitting pretty in 8 weeks. Does it have another week in it to join up in the ranks of the 9-week boys? Does it have 2 more weeks in it that it can be the only other movie to hit double digits for 2023, and thus being that the biggest legs of the box office here in 2023 were all animated movies? I think it's possible. I think there's a solid chance that Spider-Man could get to 10 weeks. I think it might end up locking in at 9 weeks just because there are a lot of movies still coming out week over week now for the next few weeks. So I think Spider-Man might lock in at 9, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it hit 10. We've got now locked in at 8 weeks, joining A Man Called Otto and Dungeons and Dragons, is The Little Mermaid. Didn't have enough in it to hit to the 9 weeks, so it locks in now at 8 weeks with them. We got Transformers Rise of the Beast sitting here at 7 weeks. Does it have enough in it to get to join the 8-week boys? I think it might have 1 more week in it if it's lucky. Otherwise, it might be joining Ant-Man and the Wasp right now, locking in at 7 weeks. And then you've got Elemental sitting at 6 weeks now. And then the big question always there is, does a movie have another week in it so that it doesn't join the median average of movies joining the 6-week boys, which was Scream 6, Creed 3, Jesus Revolution, Megan, Missing, Air, and Evil Dead Rise. But that'll do it for all of us here at the charts this weekend. It was an absolutely glorious weekend at the box office, the best of the year. Then all eyes will be, is there anything that's going to come close to touching that weekend? Are there any other surprises that we have left for this upcoming year here at the box office? I feel like after Super Mario Brothers and now this one, there really isn't anything else that is getting that gusto of excitement that's going to drive in huge, insane business to the theater. I just don't see any other movie this year doing it. So it's going to be interesting now to just take a look and see, where does Barbie finally lie on our domestic front, on our worldwide front? What's its legs going to be? How much is the drop-off going to be next week? Are all the people that are like lamenting about it now and saying that they tricked us going to do anything to hurt the box office week over week? I don't know. I don't think it's going to. I think this movie is going to have legs. People are going to continue to come out and see this movie. What is Oppenheimer going to do? Same thing along with those. What's its domestic, worldwide, legs, all that good stuff is going to be to look to those movies. How much left in the tank does Sound of Freedom have? How many more weeks is that movie going to be clowning around, still making money hand over fist? Will Mission Impossible continue to have legs at least, even though it dropped down at this point? Will it eventually come and take back over ahead of Sound of Freedom and continue to make money into August to recoup some of that massive budget? It all remains to be seen. While we also have the release of The Haunted Mansion this weekend, and another attempt at doing The Haunted Mansion. I really hope, beyond hope, that this movie will be good. The trailers aren't terrible. I like the whole cast that's in it. I really like that they're doing much more of bringing the ride into the movie. The Eddie Murphy one really left a lot to be desired as far as making it really feel like the ride come to life. So they have their work cut out for them in this one. Obviously, they hit gold with the Pirates movies, the first 3 Pirates movies, some of the best movies of all time. They struck out with Jungle Cruise. They struck out the first time with Haunted Mansion. So all eyes now are onto this one to see if will this one break the curse and be able to make a decent amount of money. They're claiming $300 million at the box office this weekend. $300 million? Oh my God, I gotta go lay down. $30 million at the box office this weekend. If that movie made $300 million this weekend, we would be talking about an absolute Cinderella story right now. They're claiming 30 weekend. I need to stop. I need to go lay down. 30 million weekend. Is that enough to hit number 1? I don't know. It all depends. What's Barbie's holdover going to be? What's Oppenheimer's holdover going to be? It's all going to be a very interesting thing to see this weekend at the box office. Will we have another number 1 movie at the box office, or will Barbie manage to be the only movie this summer to win 2 weekends in a row? That just remains to be seen, and that is the gloriness of waiting to see what's going to happen this weekend at the charts. Now, you will not see me this next weekend. You will not see me for a little while. In fact, I leave for my honeymoon tomorrow. I will be gone until August 5th. I will be out hanging around in Paris and in Amsterdam for 10 days, doing 5 and 5 apiece. Gonna go visit Disneyland Paris, gonna go see some sights in Paris, hit some amusement parks in Paris and Amsterdam, take in a lot of the culture of Paris and Amsterdam, and just have a great time with my wife. So I will not be here for a little while, so don't look. I won't be back here next week. I'll be back the following week, and after that, I think, would be for the weekend of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think, comes out that weekend in August. I'll be back. So see you for all that. We'll dive into all that good stuff. We'll see how all this stuff changes and how it all shakes out. But don't you worry. I will absolutely be following along with all that good stuff while I am in Paris and I am in Amsterdam. So maybe you can chart along with me on Instagram. You can follow me on there. OMG, it's TJ Trimboli in there. See along with all my fun that I'm having on my honeymoon, as well as checking in on how the box office is doing. You bet your ass I'm going to see Haunted Mansion while I'm in Paris. And if I can, maybe TMNT. That one will probably wait till I'm back. But I'm going to absolutely see the Haunted Mansion while I am in Paris. So it's going to be an absolute fantastic time. But that'll do it for all of us here at the Charts of this week. Until the next adventure, you have been you. I have been me. These are the movies that we love so much. And I'll see you at the movies.